There's a new number that's about to define the next phase of the war in Ukraine: 50,000. That's how many. Russian soldiers. Ukraine's new defense minister says he plans to take off the battlefield every single month. This isn't just about winning a few skirmishes. It's a cold, calculated strategy of industrial-scale attrition designed to break the very back of the Russian war machine. I'm your host, Frias. I've studied and reported on the Kremlin's tactics, watching its hybrid war against the West unfold. But today, we're looking at a fundamental shift in Ukraine's strategy. Kyiv has just put a tech visionary in charge of its defense ministry, Mykhailo Fedorov, the man behind Ukraine's celebrated army of drones. His mission is crystal clear: make Putin's invasion so costly, so mathematically unbearable, that it forces this war to a conclusion. To really get why Ukraine is making this shift, you have to understand the brutal math of the front lines. This has become a grinding war of attrition, and for centuries, Russia has relied on its one great advantage: sheer numbers. The Kremlin has always treated its people as an expendable resource, no different from bullets or shells. If a strategy fails or technology lags, the solution is always the same: just send more men. This thinking has defined Russian and Soviet military doctrine for over a century. They push forward with wave after wave of soldiers, accepting catastrophic losses simply to wear out their enemy, and in 2026, the Kremlin's plan hasn't changed. According to Ukrainian intelligence, Russia's trying to recruit over 400,000 new soldiers. This year, that's a target of roughly 34,000 every month. They are literally buying an army, throwing massive signing bonuses at men from impoverished regions to get them into the ranks. For Ukraine, trying to match Russia men for man just isn't a winning strategy long-term. Kyiv is facing its own mobilization challenges, and there are reports of draft evasion. This imbalance is the central problem Ukraine has to solve. It can't win a 20th-century war of mass armies against a much larger country that has so little regard for human life. So it's choosing to fight a 21st-century war instead of a war of technology. Precision, and overwhelming asymmetrical force. Earlier this month, in January 2026, Ukraine's parliament appointed Mykhailo Fedorov as the new Minister of Defense. Now, this is not your typical wartime appointment. Fedorov isn't a lifelong general. He's a young tech entrepreneur who, until recently, was the Minister of Digital Transformation. This is the man who digitized Ukraine's entire government, wiping out old Soviet bureaucracy. And, most importantly, he's the mastermind behind the army of drones and the Brave One military tech startup platform. His appointment signals a radical new direction. Fedorov's stated goal isn't just to hold the line, but to force peace by force. And he's been brutally honest about how he's going to do it. His second priority, right after reforming the ministry itself, is to inflict at least 50,000 irrecoverable casualties on Russian forces every single month. That number isn't just pulled out of thin air. It's a strategic calculation. Back in December 2025, Ukrainian forces, mostly using FPV drones, took out a verified 35,000 Russian soldiers. That was a new record, up from 30,000 the month before. Fedorov's plan is to scale that number up to 50,000. Why? Because that's the breaking point. It's the threshold where Russia's recruitment system, which is already showing signs of stress, simply can't keep up. The goal is to create a deficit so big that the Russian front lines start to crumble under the weight of their own unsustainable losses. So, how is this even possible? The answer lies in a weapon that has come to define this war: the FPV, or first-person view drone. These are small, fast, and incredibly lethal quadcopters, each carrying a warhead that can be flown directly into a target with terrifying precision. They've become the #1 cause of casualties on the front line, reportedly responsible for the vast majority of losses. Ukrainian drone units have created what they call robotic kill zones, areas stretching 4 kilometers from their own positions. Any Russian assault that tries to cross this zone gets systematically shredded by drones. before it can even get close to Ukrainian lines. The effectiveness is confirmed by Russian prisoners of war, with one recently surrendering to a drone after his entire unit was wiped out in 3 separate attempts to cross one of these kill zones. To feed this strategy, Ukraine is spinning up a monumental drone production effort. The country is now mass-producing its own FPVs and long-range strike drones on an industrial scale. Innovation is happening at a blistering pace. As a sign of this ramp-up, the government confirmed that private companies delivered 40,000 new interceptor drones in January 2026 alone. Spurred by state incentives, they're also rolling out unmanned ground vehicles that can hold defensive positions for over a month, and developing fiber-optic guided drones to counter Russian electronic warfare. It's about turning the battlefield into a data-driven system where every Russian soldier and vehicle is a target. This strategy isn't just about the math on the battlefield. It's about hitting Russia with a bill it simply can't afford to pay. Each FPV drone costs only a few $100s, but it can destroy a Russian tank, artillery piece, or supply truck worth millions. More importantly, it can eliminate a soldier that Russia spent tens of thousands of dollars to recruit, train, and equip. The economic pressure is immense, but the psychological impact on Russian troops might be even more devastating. Imagine you're a soldier in a trench, and you know that at any moment, a silent, unseen enemy can fly an explosive right through your bunker's window. There's no defense. There's nowhere to hide. This constant 24/7 threat of drone attack just erodes morale, creates paranoia, and shatters the will to fight. Russian soldiers aren't just being fought, they're being hunted. Not by an army they can see, but by a swarm they can only hear, moments before it hits. This is the very definition of making the war unbearable. While Ukraine's long-range drones hit deep inside Russia, crippling the war economy by striking oil refineries and military factories, its FPV drones are hollowing out the Russian army from the inside out. Of course, this plan isn't foolproof. The Kremlin isn't just sitting back and watching. Russia is adapting, ramping up its own drone production, and getting better with its electronic warfare systems to jam Ukrainian signals. They're also pulling high-value equipment further back from the front lines and continue to use glide bombs to terrorize Ukrainian cities. And there's a bigger issue. Drones can't hold ground. Ukraine still has a serious manpower shortage, a problem Fedorov himself has acknowledged. While drones are incredibly effective for defense and for grinding down the enemy, you ultimately need infantry to take and secure territory. But Ukraine's strategy is built around this reality. It's an asymmetrical approach. They know they can't match Russia's mass, so they're countering with superior technology and efficiency. The whole idea is to use drones to inflict such heavy losses that it creates gaps and weaknesses in the Russian lines gaps that Ukraine's more limited. But better trained ground forces can then exploit. Fedorov's doctrine is simple: more technology, fewer casualties. A plan designed to save Ukrainian lives while systematically dismantling the invading army. What Ukraine is doing right now doesn't just matter for this war. It matters for every war that comes after it. Because if Fedorov's strategy works even partially, it will shatter a military assumption that has dominated global thinking since World War II, that large populations guarantee military endurance. For decades, countries like Russia, China, and even the United States have believed that industrial capacity plus manpower equals victory. Ukraine is testing a radically different equation, one where software updates matter more than battalions, where production cycles are measured in weeks, not decades, where a garage startup can change the balance of power faster than a tank factory. If a mid-sized country under constant attack can neutralize a numerically superior invader through autonomous systems, distributed manufacturing, and real-time battlefield data, but then traditional military hierarchies everywhere are in trouble. Generals plan wars years in advance. Ukraine is updating its war every month. This is why military observers around the world are watching so closely. Not just NATO planners, but also countries that once relied on mass armies as a deterrent. The lesson is uncomfortable. Numbers don't scare drones. Bureaucracy doesn't stop algorithms. And fear no longer flows only one way. Ukraine is turning the battlefield into a proving ground for what might become the dominant model of 21st century defense. This brings us to Russia's real problem, not on the battlefield, but in the Kremlin itself. Putin is trapped between two impossible choices. If he escalates further, he risks triggering deeper economic collapse, greater domestic unrest, and potentially direct confrontation with NATO. But if he de-escalates, he admits failure in a war he framed as existential. Drone warfare makes that trap even tighter. You can spin casualties when they happen slowly. You can hide them when they're spread out. But sustained high-volume losses create patterns that families notice, regions feel, and local officials can't explain away forever. When recruitment dries up in one province after another, when bonuses keep rising but volunteers keep shrinking, the system starts cracking from the edges inward. And here's the key point. Authoritarian systems are not built for transparency or rapid correction. They rely on denial until denial stops working. Ukraine's strategy accelerates that moment. Every month the losses exceed replacements. Putin isn't just losing soldiers, he's losing time. Time to stabilize. Time to rotate units. Time to pretend this is all going according to plan. Wars don't always end with surrender. Sometimes they end when one side realizes it can't stop the bleeding. Another critical piece of this puzzle often gets misunderstood. This strategy does not require unlimited Western troops or endless aid packages. What it requires is consistency. Ukraine's drone ecosystem is increasingly domestic. What it still needs from allies is not armies, but components, capital, and political cover. Semiconductors, optical systems, communications tech, and just as importantly, the freedom to innovate without artificial constraints. This is where Ukraine's partners face their own tests. Supporting a high-tech war effort is less visible than shipping tanks, but potentially far more decisive. The countries that understand this and adapt their support accordingly will shape the outcome without ever firing a shot themselves. In that sense, Ukraine isn't just defending its territory. It's offering a blueprint for how smaller democracies can survive in a world where brute force is making a comeback. It's important to pause here and acknowledge something behind every statistic, every strategic calculation, there are human lives being erased. This strategy is ruthless because the war itself is ruthless. Ukraine did not choose this battlefield. It was imposed, and when survival is at stake, morality becomes intertwined with math in ways that are deeply unsettling. Fedorov's doctrine isn't about cruelty for its own sake. It's about ending the war faster by making continuation impossible. Every month the war drags on costs Ukraine civilians, infrastructure, and generations of future stability. If technology can shorten that timeline, if it can save Ukrainian lives by shifting the burden onto machines instead of people, then that is the grim logic driving this approach. This is not about celebrating destruction. It's about minimizing it in the only way Ukraine believes remains. So where does this leave us? We are entering a phase of the war where momentum may no longer be measured in kilometers gained or lost, but in ratios: losses versus replacements, production versus disruption, morale versus fear. Ukraine is betting that Russia reaches its breaking point first. If they're right, the next year won't be defined by dramatic offensives or sweeping headlines, but by something quieter and more decisive: exhaustion. A slow realization inside the Russian system that this war no longer has a viable path forward. And if they're wrong, then Ukraine will still have fundamentally changed how wars are fought, studied, and prepared for in the future. Either way, this moment marks a turning point. Not just in Ukraine's war for survival, but in the evolution of warfare itself. What we're seeing here is the blueprint for a new kind of warfare. Architected by one of Ukraine's most forward-thinking leaders, Mykhailo Fedorov's plan to take out 50,000 Russian soldiers a month is audacious. And it is absolutely ruthless. But it's born from the hard reality of a nation fighting for its very existence. The math is simple. Russia's recruitment efforts are already faltering. In December 2025, the 35,000 verified kills by Ukraine already matched or even exceeded Russia's monthly recruitment target for the first time. If Ukraine can successfully scale its drone operations to hit that 50,000 target, it will blow past Russia's ability to replace its losses. This is a strategy of calculated, relentless pressure. It's designed to bleed the Russian army white and make the human and economic cost of Putin's war so devastating that the Kremlin is forced to find a way out. It's a plan to force peace through overwhelming technological strength. If you believe in the power of technology to defend freedom, please like this video and subscribe for more analysis on the future of warfare. Supporting Ukraine is more critical than ever. Thank you for watching.